What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the vlog. Last time around we did the upper control arms in the back as well as the sway bar and end links, and then we popped some headlights in. Today we got axles for the front of this thing. Let's get to work. Alright guys, so with the car jacked up, wheels off, and some of the New England cleaned out of it, we are ready to get started here. Our first task is going to be our axle nut. Let me show you what we got going on. So this is our axle nut here, guys. All we need is a 36, and I like to use my my big boy Milwaukee impact gun here, and we just got a little indentation here spot. We're gonna dig this out with a pry bar and a hammer, and then we're gonna grab our impact and spin this guy off. Alright guys, so with our axle nut off on both sides now, we're actually going to move on into our suspension. We have our end link up first in here, down in there, and then we're going to remove our damper fork, which is connected to the bottom of our coilover. And then we do have a ball joint up front that we're going to want to separate as well. Once we get these three parts disassembled, it should be pretty easy to move our knuckle out of the way so we have some clearance for our axle. Alright guys, so I think we have officially ran into the most seized ball joint that has ever existed. Let me show you what we got going on. So unfortunately, I was in here with our removal tool, and this guy would just not move for us. So unfortunately, I kept throwing the tool in, tightening it down, and it was getting so tight that the stud would bend, and then this thing would fly off towards the camera. So I really don't know if we're gonna be able to save this joint. We're definitely not gonna be able to save this joint because the stud's messed up, and grease is already coming out of the boot. So what we're gonna do instead, and I do think this is one of those like mishaps that ends up being a better thing anyway. We're actually gonna remove everything, starting with our brake line, and then our ABS sensor here, as well as down into the knuckle, and then our tie rod end, which we're gonna probably do the tie rods anyway. I have some in the porch that we can use. And the idea is we'll actually separate from the lower control arm, bring it all out, and the upper control arm, bring it all out, so that way we don't have to split this top joint. And then we'll either take it to Uncle Tim or a shop and have them split the ball joint, throw a new one in, and get it all back together. Now, am I bummed out? Of course I am. I wanted to have this thing back today and driving with nice new axles, but like I said, guys, in the long run, I think this is gonna be a lot better for us. Anyway, we'll be able to do our tie rods, we'll be able to get a new ball joint in on that side. This was actually, I don't even think I told you guys at the beginning of the video why I'm doing all of this. The biggest reason is there's a huge vibration on acceleration, and it is absolutely unbearable. So the vibration was actually coming from this side, so it makes sense to me that if the axle was bad, that ball joint was just getting into the control arm. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those you gotta roll with the punches kind of deals, and like I said, it'll all work out in the end. Something else I do want to mention too, guys, is I actually did this side first. Usually I like to do one side and then the other to film and show on camera, so this side actually came apart no problem. Our axle's free and ready to pull, and we won't need to remove the knuckle or anything over here. Woo! Alright guys, so here we are with the whole thing out of the car. I even just tried again for another 20 minutes to get this ball joint out, and this thing is absolutely seized. We're gonna be taking this whole thing either to Uncle Tim's or to the shop, probably just to the shop, and we're gonna have them replace this ball joint here in the knuckle, and then we'll get the control arm back separate from the whole thing, and we'll be able to put everything back together. Now, I did take out the end links as well, guys. You can see that's both sides there. I figured since we were in here, we might as well. I did mention doing the tie rods as well, but I think I'm gonna leave them because there's really nothing else in the suspension that gets in the way of replacing the tie rods, so I can always do those nice and easy anyway. I think probably tomorrow after work, as the shop is replacing the ball joint, I'll try and pull these axles out. I'm doing the intermediate shaft as well, and that just about sums it up for today. I'd love to keep going, but it is getting pretty cold, a little bit late, and tomorrow's my birthday, so I actually have a birthday dinner with my mom, dad, and Al, so I'm probably gonna clean up and call it quits for the day. All right, guys, so we're back. It's actually 2 days from the last clip that I left off at. Yesterday, we took the knuckle to Uncle Tim's house, so that way he could get the old ball joint out and the new one in. He did finish that up today, so we're gonna go grab that, but before we do, we got about an hour of daylight left. It's been kind of a long day, so I apologize if I seem tired, but I figured we could use that hour to get these axles out. So let me show you guys what we're working with. So on our passenger side here, guys, it's actually not just an axle, it actually goes into an intermediate shaft, which is that middle shaft there. And as you guys can see, that intermediate shaft is bolted into the engine block. There's a bolt underneath here, so right up in there. And then there's another one on the back side of this bracket right here that we're gonna need to get off. The driver's side should be a little bit easier. Let me show you guys what we're working with over there. As you guys can see, the driver's side is mounted right into the transmission, so we should be able to get up underneath here. wiggle around. So there's our axle from underneath the car. We should be able to just stick a pry bar up in there and get it out of there if pulling it doesn't work. Usually I just pull on it. Like I said, guys, not a ton of time here, so I think I'm just gonna set up a time lapse and get to work. So the reason we ended up going axle first is just because this bolt, actually, you didn't have any clearance to get at that. So now that we have this axle out, we can get at this bolt, and then there's one more on the bottom on the other side too. All of them are 14, 3 for our intermediate shaft mount. All right, guys, so that is everything that we needed to get out of the car out tonight. I think what I'm gonna do is just real quickly grab the new intermediate shaft and throw it into the transmission on this side. And then on the other side here, we're gonna throw our driver's side axle in there. Just because I really don't wanna leave the open transmission open to the elements. I really don't think it's gonna affect anything if I do, but it'll just help me sleep at night, so I think we're gonna do it that way. I'm gonna wheel this thing back together, and then I'm gonna update you guys when it's done. All right, guys, so here's all the old stuff out of the car. I did want to show you a quick comparison of some of the new to old. So this is going to be our new intermediate shaft. Check this out. So there we go. There's our new intermediate shaft, looking a lot better than the old one. Then the bigger of our two axles is actually going to be our driver's side. So I'm going to want to get that one out of our two new boxes over there and get the driver's side axle in just loose. I'm not going to torque anything down, but I do want to just seal up the transmission for the night. And there's the new axle in case you guys are curious. Now I did want to quickly mention that we went with the aftermarket axles you can find on K-Series parts. I think they're rated for like 500 horsepower. I don't think we're ever going to make that in the TSX, but if we decide to tune it or boost it or do whatever, at least we know the axles will be able to take it, and hopefully we won't be down there doing this job again. Although it'll probably need a clutch, so the axles will come up for that. But anyway, for now, let's get these things in. All right, guys, so here's what we got going on. We got our driver's side axle in, and we did notice that the leak stopped underneath here on the transmission once the axle went all the way in. I did throw it in at one point. It wasn't all the way in. It was still leaking, and I was worried. But we did hit a snag, unfortunately, on the other side. We're gonna come on into the garage and check out our intermediate shafts here. Unfortunately, it looks like even though I ordered this from a supposedly OEM Honda dealer, this is aftermarket. And the reason I say that is two reasons. One, you'll notice a logo here, Yamada, and then over here on the original, we got SDA, which is very different. And unfortunately, this guy didn't fit. The spline went in fine if I put the bracket backwards so that it didn't fit onto the engine block, like it would go in. But as soon as I lined up the bracket the right way to fit up to the block, it wouldn't go in. I grabbed this thing, tossed it right in, fit like a glove, so obviously there's a difference here. So what I'm gonna do is take the original one over to Uncle Tim's with us tonight, have him check it out and let us know if it's okay to reuse. If not, we'll find an OEM one.